The sound of shattering glass echoed through my empty house as I hurled my phone against the kitchen wall. 4 words. Just 4 simple words had destroyed my world. Or don't call me. I stood frozen in my bathrobe, surrounded by the pieces of my phone and my life, watching the blood from my bare foot pool on the white tile floor. Maya, my 16-year-old daughter, my only child, my everything, gone. The silence that followed was deafening, not just from the broken phone, but from the sudden absence of hope that had been keeping me breathing for the past 3 months. 3 months since she'd moved in with her father. 3 months of awkward conversations that felt like talking to a stranger. 3 months of wondering what I'd done wrong. Now I knew. I was the problem. I was the one she needed to escape from. I sank to the floor, not caring about the glass cutting into my knees, and sobbed until there was nothing left inside me but an aching void where my heart used to be. 6 hours earlier, the alarm clock screamed at 5:30 a.m., same as every morning. I'd been getting up early for 17 years, first for feedings when Maya was a baby, then for school lunches and soccer, practice and dance recitals. Now I got up early out of habit, even though there was no one to make breakfast for anymore. I padded to the kitchen in my fuzzy slippers, the same ones Maya had given me for Mother's Day 2 years ago. They were worn thin now, but I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. Everything in this house was a reminder of what I'd lost. Her soccer cleats still sat by the back door, caked with mud from her last game. Her favorite coffee mug, the one with the chipped handle that said, "Worlds." "Okayest, daughter," sat in the dishwasher, clean but unused. I'd been running empty loads for weeks, unable to face the finality of putting it away. The coffee maker gurgled to life, filling the kitchen with the rich smell that used to bring Maya stumbling downstairs in her pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction, complaining about how early it was. She'd steal sips from my cup while I made her eggs and toast, chattering about her friends or complaining about homework or planning her weekend. Now the silence was suffocating. I checked my phone. Still no response to the text I'd sent last night. Just a simple, "Good night, sweetheart. Love you." The same message I'd been sending every night for 3 months. Sometimes she'd respond with a heart emoji or a quick, "Love you too." Sometimes nothing. Last night had been nothing. I scrolled through our conversation history, reading months of increasingly sparse exchanges, where we used to text constantly. Funny memes, random thoughts, her asking permission for sleepovers or rides to the mall. Now our conversations were stilted and formal. "How was school?" I'd ask. "Fine." "What did you have for lunch?" "Sandwich." "Want to go shopping this weekend?" "Can't. Busy." I'd started documenting every interaction, analyzing each word like a lawyer preparing for trial. Was she angry? Depressed? Was this normal teenage behavior, or was something seriously wrong? Her father, David, insisted it was just a phase. "She's 16, Claire. Remember how you were at 16? But I did remember. I remembered feeling misunderstood and dramatic and full of big emotions I didn't know how to handle. I also remembered my mother being patient with me, being there to listen when I was ready to talk. I remembered feeling safe at home, even when everything else in my world felt chaotic. Maya didn't seem to feel safe anywhere anymore. The doorbell rang at 7:15 a.m., and for a wild moment I thought it might be her. Maybe she'd decided to come home, to talk to me, to let me fix whatever was broken between us. Instead, I found my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, on the porch, holding a covered casserole dish. "I made too much chicken and rice," she said, which was her polite way of saying she was worried about me. "You look thin, Claire." I accepted the dish gratefully. Mrs. Chen had been bringing me food ever since Maya left, never asking questions, never offering unsolicited advice. Just quiet kindness from a woman who'd raised 4 children and understood that sometimes mothers needed mothering too. "Thank you," I said. "You don't have to keep doing this." "I know." She squeezed my arm. "But I want to." After she left, I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Maya and I had eaten thousands of meals together, and tried to force down a few bites of chicken. Everything tasted like cardboard lately. My clothes were hanging loose, and I'd had to tighten my watch band twice in the past month. My phone buzzed with a work email. 3 depositions scheduled for this week. A motion due Friday. A client meeting at noon. The familiar crush of responsibility should have felt overwhelming, but work was the only thing that made sense anymore. In the courtroom, I was competent. I was successful. I was somebody's lifeline instead of somebody's disappointment. Got dressed in my armor, a sharp black suit, red lipstick, the pearl earrings my mother had given me when I passed the bar exam. In the mirror, I looked like the successful lawyer everyone expected me to be. They had no idea that underneath, I was falling apart. The drive to work took me past Maya's high school. I'd been avoiding this route for months, but today something made me turn down Elm Street. Maybe I was torturing myself, or maybe I was hoping to catch a glimpse of her between classes. Students were arriving for first period, backpacks slung over shoulders, clusters of friends laughing and shoving each other. I spotted Maya's best friend Jessica by the front entrance and felt a stab of jealousy. When was the last time Maya had laughed like that with me? I pulled into the parking lot and rolled down my window. "Jessica!" I called out. The girl looked up startled, then walked over to my car. "Oh, hi, Mrs. Morrison. How are you?" The question was loaded with meaning. Everyone knew Maya had moved in with her father. In a small town like ours, family drama was public knowledge. "I'm fine," I lied. "How's Maya doing? I haven't talked to her much lately." Jessica's expression became guarded. She's okay, I guess. You know Maya. She keeps things to herself. Has she seemed different to you? Upset about anything?" The teenager shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know, Mrs. Morrison. Maybe you should ask her dad." The dismissal stung, but I forced a smile. "Of course. Thanks, Jessica." As I drove away, I caught sight of Jessica pulling out her phone, probably texting Maya about our encounter. Another black mark against me. The desperate mother interrogating her daughter's friends in school parking lots. The law firm of Morrison, Blake & Associates occupied the top 2 floors of the tallest building in downtown Millbrook. I'd worked my way up from junior associate to named partner over 15 years, building a reputation for being tough, thorough, and uncompromising. My colleagues respected me. My clients trusted me. Judges knew better than to underestimate me. But today, walking into the office felt like entering a different universe, one where I was successful and in control, instead of the broken woman who'd spent the morning crying in her car. "Good morning, Claire," my assistant Patricia said, handing me a stack of messages. "Your 9 a.m. is here early. The Peterson case files are on your desk, and Judge Martinez wants to see you in chambers at 2. I nodded, grateful for the familiar routine. Patricia had been with me for 8 years, long enough to know when I needed space and when I needed distraction. Today, I needed both. My office overlooked Main Street with floor-to-ceiling windows that usually made me feel powerful and accomplished. Today, they just made me feel exposed. I closed the blinds and threw myself into work. The Peterson case was a custody battle. A bitter divorce where both parents were using their 10-year-old son as a weapon. Reading through the depositions, I felt sick. Here were two adults so consumed with hatred for each other that they'd forgotten about protecting their child. The mother accused the father of being emotionally absent. The father claimed the mother was manipulative and controlling. Both of them were probably right. I'd handled dozens of custody cases over the years, always with professional detachment. But now, every case felt personal. Every story of family breakdown felt like a mirror reflecting my own failures. My phone buzzed. A text from David. "Maya wants to talk to you. Can you call tonight around 8? My heart leapt. She wanted to talk. Maybe we could work through whatever was wrong. Maybe I could fix this. I typed back immediately. Of course. Tell her I love her. The response came 5 minutes later. She knows. But did she? When was the last time I'd actually said the words? We'd gotten so busy with the logistics of life, school and activities and schedules, that I'd started assuming she knew how I felt without me having to say it. I spent the rest of the day distracted, watching the clock and rehearsing what I'd say. I'd be calm and understanding. I'd listen without judgment. I'd let her lead the conversation instead of overwhelming her with questions. At 7:45 p.m., I sat in my living room with my phone in my hands, more nervous than I'd been before any trial. This was my daughter, the person I loved most in the world, and I was terrified to talk to her. At exactly 8 p.m., I dialed her number. She answered on the third ring. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart." The endearment slipped out naturally, and I held my breath, waiting to see if she'd correct me or pull away. "How are you doing?" she asked, and her voice sounded tired in a way that made my chest ache. "I'm okay. How are you? How's school?" "It's fine. Look, Mom, I need to tell you something." My grip tightened on the phone. "Of course. You can tell me anything." There was a long pause, and I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. In the background, I caught the sound of a television and David's voice saying something I couldn't make out. "I can't do this anymore," Maya said finally. "Do what, honey?" "This. Us. The phone calls and the texting and pretending like everything's normal when it's not." My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "Maya, whatever's wrong, we can work through it together." "No, we can't." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "I need space, Mom. I need you to stop calling me and texting me and showing up at my school." The accusation hit like a slap. "I don't show up at your school?" "Jessica told me you cornered her in the parking lot this morning." Heat flooded my cheeks. "I was just asking how you were doing. I was worried." "You're always worried. You're always trying to fix things and control things and make everything perfect. I can't breathe with you watching me all the time." The words were like physical blows. "Maya, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to understand what's wrong so you can fix it, I know. But you can't fix this, Mom. You can't fix me." "You're not broken, sweetheart. You don't need to be fixed." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Yes, I do. And I can't do it with you breathing down my neck, analyzing every word I say, turning everything into a problem that needs solving." I was crying now, tears streaming down my face. "Maya, please, just tell me what I did wrong. Tell me how to make this better." "You didn't do anything wrong. That's the problem." "You're perfect, Mom. You're successful and strong, and you have your whole life figured out. I'm not like you. I'm messy and confused, and I make stupid mistakes. And I can't be the daughter you deserve." "You are exactly the daughter I deserve. You're exactly the daughter I want." "No, I'm not." Her voice cracked. "I love you, Mom. But I can't talk to you anymore. I can't see you. I need you to give me space." "How much space? A week? A month?" "Maya, help me understand. I don't know. I just know I can't do this right now." The line went quiet except for both of us breathing. I waited, hoping she'd change her mind, hoping she'd take it back. Instead, she said, "I'm going to hang up now." "Maya, wait, don't call me." The line went dead. I sat staring at my phone for several minutes, waiting for it to ring again, waiting for her to call back and say she didn't mean it, waiting for David to call and explain that Maya was just having a bad day and everything would be fine tomorrow. But the silence stretched on. I called back. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Still voicemail. I sent a text. "Maya, please don't. Do this. We can work through whatever's wrong. I love you." No response. Another text. "I'm sorry if I've been too pushy. I'll give you space if that's what you need. But don't cut me out of your life completely." Nothing. A third text. "Please just tell me you're okay. That's all I need to know." Silence. That's when I threw my phone against the wall. 3 months later. Birthday card was pink with a cartoon cat on the front. Maya's favorite when she was younger. Inside, I'd written the same message I'd been writing for 17 years. "Happy birthday to my beautiful daughter. You are loved more than words. Can say, Mom." I'd been to 3 different stores to find the perfect card, standing in the greeting card aisle like a lost tourist, reading sappy verses about mother-daughter bonds while trying not to cry in public. In the end, I'd chosen the simplest one I could find. The address was David's apartment. I had no idea if Maya was still living there, but it was the only address I had. The postal service would forward it if she'd moved, right? I drove to the post office, bought a stamp, and stood at the mailbox for 10 minutes before finally dropping it in. Such a small act, mailing a birthday card to my own daughter, but it felt monumental. It was the only connection I had left to her. My phone rang as I was driving home. For a split second, my heart jumped, thinking it might be Maya calling to thank me for the card. Instead, it was my sister Rachel. "Hey, how are you holding up today?" she asked. Rachel was the only person who still asked me about Maya. Everyone else had stopped mentioning her, as if my daughter had simply ceased to exist. I was grateful for Rachel's persistence, even when it hurt. "I'm okay," I said automatically. "No, you're not. It's her birthday, and you haven't talked to her in 3 months. You're not okay." Rachel was a therapist, which meant she had an annoying tendency to call me on my lies. She also had 3 kids of her own, which meant she understood what I was going through in a way that childless friends couldn't. "I sent her a card," I said. "That's good. That's really good, Claire." "Is it? Or am I just making things worse by not respecting her boundaries?" "She's 17 years old. She doesn't know what her boundaries are yet. You're her mother. It's okay to remind her that you love her." I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car, engine running. The house looked exactly the same as it had 3 months ago, but it felt different, empty, like a stage set after the play was over. "Rachel, can I ask you something?" "Of course. If one of your kids stopped talking to you, what would you do?" There was a pause. "I don't know. I really don't. But I'd probably do exactly what you're doing. Keep trying, keep hoping, keep showing up even when they don't want me to. Even if it was making things worse. How could loving your child make things worse?" I didn't have an answer for that. After we hung up, I sat in my car for another 20 minutes, watching the house where Maya had grown up, the basketball hoop over the garage where she'd practiced free throws for hours, the window of her bedroom where she'd snuck out exactly once to go to a party at Jessica's house. She'd confessed the next morning, crying and apologizing, terrified I'd be disappointed in her. I'd been proud of her for telling the truth. Now I wondered if that had been the beginning of the end. Had I been too understanding, too forgiving? Had I made her feel like she couldn't make mistakes without me analyzing them and turning them into teaching moments? The therapist I'd started seeing, Dr. Williams, a kind woman with gray hair and patient eyes, said I needed to stop blaming myself. Sometimes teenagers need to separate from their parents to figure out who they are, she'd said. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But if I hadn't done anything wrong, why had Maya felt the need to cut me out of her life so completely? Why couldn't she trust me enough to tell me what was bothering her? I finally went inside and made myself a cup of tea, sitting at the kitchen table where Maya and I had shared thousands of meals. The silence was deafening. I'd gotten used to eating alone, but I'd never gotten used to the quiet. I found myself wondering if she'd had a good birthday. Did David take her somewhere special? Did her friends throw her a party? Did she blow out candles on a cake and make a wish? Did she think about me at all? 6 months later. The law firm's annual Christmas party was in full swing when I made my excuses and slipped away. I'd managed to smile and make small talk for exactly 45 minutes. A new personal record, before the holiday cheer became unbearable. Everyone else was talking about their families' Christmas plans, where they were traveling, what gifts they'd bought their children, which relatives they were dreading seeing. I stood there with my glass of wine, nodding and smiling, pretending I had somewhere to be on Christmas morning besides my empty house. Patricia cornered me by the elevators. "Claire, you should go home. You look exhausted." "I'm fine," I said, which had become my standard response to everything. "No, you're not. You haven't been fine for months. When was the last time you took a vacation? Or even a sick day?" I couldn't. Remember, work had become my refuge, the only place where I felt competent and useful. I was taking on more cases than ever, staying late every night, coming in on weekends. My partners were starting to worry, but not enough to tell me to slow down. I was billing more hours than anyone else in the firm. "I'll take some time off after the holidays," I lied. Patricia gave me a look that said she didn't believe me, but she didn't push. "Drive safe. The roads are icy." The drive home took me past the park where Maya and I used to go sledding every winter. She'd insist on using the big hill, even when she was too small to control the sled. I'd run behind her, shouting instructions, my heart in my throat every time she hit a bump or veered toward a tree. "You worry too much, Mom," she'd say, trudging back up the hill with snow in her boots and a huge grin on her face. I'm not going to die from sledding. But I did worry. I worried about everything. Her physical safety, her emotional well-being, her future. I worried that I wasn't a good enough mother, that I was too strict or too lenient, that I was screwing her up in ways I couldn't even see. Now I wondered if my constant worrying had driven her away. At home, I found a Christmas card in my mailbox from Maya's school. The annual fundraising appeal, addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Morrison. They hadn't updated their records to reflect that Maya was no longer living with me. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. Inside was a list of the school's academic achievements, sports victories, and upcoming events. At the bottom was a photo of the honor roll students. Maya was in the third row, wearing a blue dress I'd never seen before. She looked older, more mature. She was smiling, but it didn't reach her eyes. I stared at that picture for a long time, memorizing every detail of her face. She was beautiful, had always been beautiful, but there was something different about her now, a sadness that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had been there, and I'd been too blind to see it. I put the card on my refrigerator, next to the birthday card I'd never sent last month. I'd bought it, written in it, addressed it, and then lost my nerve at the last minute. What if she returned it? What if she moved and didn't leave a forwarding address? What if I was just making her life harder by refusing to let go? Dr. Williams said I needed to have faith that Maya would come back when she was ready. But what if she was never ready? What if I'd lost her forever, 1 year later? The private investigator's report was thin, just 3 pages of basic information that confirmed what I already suspected. Maya was still living with her father. She'd graduated from high school with honors and was enrolled at the community college, studying nursing. She worked part-time at a local diner. She was moving on with her life, apparently without any need for me in it. I sat in my car outside the diner, holding the report and trying to work up the courage to go inside. It was a small place called Rosie's, the kind of family restaurant that served breakfast all day and had probably looked the same for 30 years. Through the window, I could see her taking orders, refilling coffee cups, laughing with customers. She looked happy, or at least, she looked like she was pretending to be happy, which was more than I could manage most days. I'd been sitting there for 2 hours, paralyzed by indecision. Part of me wanted to march in there and demand to know why she'd thrown away our relationship. Part of me wanted to hide in my car forever, content to just watch her from a distance. In the end, I did neither. I drove home and put the investigator's report in the drawer with all the unsent birthday cards and Christmas presents I'd bought for her. That night, I called Rachel. "I saw her today," I said. "Oh, Claire. How are you feeling?" Like a stalker. Like a pathetic woman who can't accept that her daughter doesn't want her anymore. "You're not pathetic. You're a mother who loves her child." Love isn't enough, though, is it? If it were, she'd still be here. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. You know, when Sarah was going through her rough patch in middle school, the cutting and the depression, there was a period where she wouldn't talk to me at all. She'd come home from school and go straight to her room. She'd sit with us at dinner but wouldn't say a word. It was like living with a ghost. I remembered that time. Rachel had been beside herself with worry, calling me in tears almost every night. "What changed?" I asked. "Nothing, everything. Time, I guess. Therapy, growing up." One day she just started talking to me again like nothing had happened. But it took almost a year. A year isn't 3 years, Rachel. No, it's not, but the principle is the same. Sometimes kids need to pull away to figure out who they are, separate from us. It doesn't mean they don't love us. After we hung up, I went to Maya's room for the first time in months. I'd been keeping the door closed, unable to face the reminder of what I'd lost. But tonight I needed to be close to her somehow. Everything was exactly as she'd left it. Her bed was made with the purple comforter she'd picked out when she was 14. Her desk was still covered with school supplies and photos of friends. Her bookshelf was full of the young adult novels she'd devoured in middle school. Before, she discovered more sophisticated literature. On her nightstand was a framed photo of the 2 of us from her 16th birthday, the last birthday we'd celebrated together. We were both laughing at something David had said while taking the picture. Maya's arm was around my shoulders, and I was looking at her with such obvious adoration that it made my chest ache. Had I looked at her like that too often? Had my love felt suffocating instead of supportive? I picked up the photo and traced her face with my finger. She'd been so young then, still my little girl in so many ways. Now she was 19, practically an adult, building a life that didn't include me. I sat on her bed and cried until I was empty. 2 years later, the text came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. "Mom, I'm okay. Please stop worrying." I was awake. Insomnia had become my constant companion, and I stared at my phone in disbelief. The first direct communication from Maya in over 2 years, and it was 5 words that raised more questions than they answered. Typed and deleted a dozen responses. "Where are you? Can we talk? I miss you so much." In the end, I sent back, "I love you." No response. I lay awake until dawn, analyzing those 5 words like a Supreme Court decision. "I'm okay," suggested. She'd been not okay at some point. "Please stop worrying" meant she knew I was still worrying, which meant she was still thinking about me. But how did she know I was worrying? Had someone told her about the private investigator? Had she seen me at the diner that day 2 years ago? Or was it simply that she knew me well enough to know I'd never stop worrying about her, no matter how much time passed? Dr. Williams said the text was progress. She reached out to you. That's significant. But she didn't want to have a conversation. She just wanted to shut down my worry. Maybe that's all she can handle right now. Maybe it's her way of testing the waters. I wanted to believe that, but 2 years of silence had taught me not to get my hopes up. I'd learned to live with the constant ache of missing her, the way you learn to live with chronic pain. It never goes away, but you develop coping mechanisms. Work continued to be my primary coping mechanism. I'd been promoted to senior partner and was handling the firm's most high-profile cases. My colleagues respected my dedication, even if they whispered about my personal life behind my back. I'd also started volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping abuse victims navigate the legal system. It felt good to use my skills for something meaningful, to help people who had nowhere else to turn. Some of the women reminded me of myself, strong on the surface but broken underneath, trying to rebuild their lives from scratch. The work was emotionally draining but also healing in a way I hadn't expected. When you spend your days helping people who have lost everything, your own problems gain perspective. I'd lost my daughter, but she was still alive and healthy. That had to count for something. 4 years later, I was arguing a case before the state Supreme Court when my phone buzzed with a text from David. Maya had her baby, a girl. They're both fine. I stood there in front of 9 justices, in the middle of the most important argument of my career, and felt the world tilt sideways. Maya had been pregnant. She'd had a baby. I was a grandmother, and I'd found out from a text message. Somehow, I managed to finish my argument without completely falling apart. The justices asked their questions, I gave my responses, and I walked out of that courtroom with no memory of what I'd said. In the hallway, I called David. "When?" I asked. 3 days ago. "Claire, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you sooner, but Maya asked me not to call until..." "Until what?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Until she decided what she wanted to do about you." The words hit like a physical blow. Even in one of the most important moments of her life, Maya was still trying to decide whether I belonged in it. What did she decide? She doesn't know yet. It's complicated, Claire. Is she married? Who's the father? She's not married. The father isn't in the picture. It's just her and the baby. I closed my eyes and leaned against the courthouse wall. My daughter was a single mother, dealing with a newborn alone, and she still didn't want my help. "What's the baby's name?" I asked. "Sophie. Sophie Claire." "The Middle name stopped me cold. After all these years of silence, she'd given her daughter my name. "Claire, you still there?" "Yeah," I whispered. "I'm here. She named her after you for a reason. That has to mean something." It meant everything. And nothing. Maya had honored me in the most profound way possible, while still keeping me at arm's length. Can I send something? A gift for the baby? David hesitated. Maybe not yet. Give her some time to figure things out. Time. Always more time. How much time did one person need to decide whether their mother deserved to be part of their life? I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning with questions and emotions I couldn't process. Somewhere in this city, my daughter was holding my granddaughter, a little girl I might never meet. That night, I went to the baby store and spent 2 hours wandering the aisles, looking at tiny clothes and toys and furniture. I wanted to buy everything, to make up for 5 years of missed birthdays and holidays with one shopping trip. Instead, I bought a simple white onesie with a pink bow, size 3 to 6 months, for when Sophie was big enough to wear it. I took it home and put it in Maya's room, next to all the other gifts I'd bought over the years and never been able to give. The knock on my door came on a Tuesday, exactly 7 years after that first devastating text. I was working from home trying to focus on a brief that was due the next day, when I heard the soft rap of small knuckles against wood. I almost didn't answer. I'd learned to be suspicious of unexpected visitors, especially ones who knocked like children. In my neighborhood, kids usually came around selling candy for school fundraisers or asking if I'd lost a cat. But something made me look through the people. A little girl stood on my porch, maybe 5 years old, with dark curls and serious brown eyes that looked achingly familiar. She was wearing a purple dress with white tights and tiny black shoes, and she was holding what looked like a drawing in her small hands. My heart stopped. I opened the door with trembling fingers. "Are you Granny?" she asked, her voice clear and confident despite her size. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. She smiled then. Maya's smile, the one that had lit up my world for 16 years before disappearing from my life. "Mom said you were the strongest person she knew," the little girl said, "and she wants to see you." The words hit me like a physical force. I gripped the doorframe to keep from falling, tears streaming down my face as I looked at this miracle. Child, my granddaughter, standing on my doorstep like an answer to 7 years of prayers. "Your mom?" I whispered. "Maya," she said simply. "I'm Sophie. She's in the car, but she's scared to come up." I looked past her to the street, where a familiar Honda Civic sat with the engine running. Through the windshield, I could see her. My daughter, older now, her hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping her anchored to earth. Our eyes met across the distance, and she raised one hand in a tentative wave. I waved back, still crying, and mouthed the words I'd been saving for 7 years. "I love you," Sophie tugged on my sleeve. "She loves you too," she said matter-of-factly. "She talks about you all the time. She has pictures of you in her room." The revelation hit me like a punch to the chest. All these years, I'd thought Maya had forgotten. Me moved on without me. But she'd been talking about me to her daughter. She'd kept pictures. "Would you like to come in?" I asked Sophie, my voice shaking. "Can Mommy come too?" I looked back at the car, where Maya was still sitting frozen. 7 years of hurt and anger and desperate love crashed over me all at once. I wanted to run to that car and pull her into my arms. I wanted to shake her and demand to know why she'd put us both through this hell. I wanted to collapse and cry and never let her go again. Instead, I walked slowly down my front steps, across the yard, and to the driver's side of her car. Maya rolled down the window, her face streaked with tears. "Hi, Mom," she said, her voice barely audible. "Hi, sweetheart." We stared at each other for a long moment, 7 years of silence hanging between us like a chasm. She looked so much older, not just physically, but in her eyes. There was a weight there that hadn't been there when she was 16, a sadness that made my heart ache. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I reached through the window and touched her face, the way I used to when she was small and sad about something. "Come inside," I said. "Both of you, come home." As I watched Maya and Sophie walk up my front steps together, my daughter and my granddaughter, both strangers and the most familiar people in the world, I felt something I hadn't felt in 7 years. Hope. There was so much to talk about, so much pain to work through, so many questions that needed answers. But for now, it was enough that they were here. It was enough that Maya had found the courage to come back, that she'd raised a daughter